For most of my adult life, I've served as a police officer in Montana, and I still wear the badge to this day. Law enforcement isn't for the faint of heart. We've been called pigs, monsters, and worse. In 2020, during the peak of protests and unrest, it felt as if the entire nation turned against us. People marched with signs that read ACAB, short for All Cops Are Bastards. It stung, but I tried to not take it to heart. Becoming a cop wasn't my childhood dream. I never imagined wearing a uniform, but life doesn't always follow the script. College wasn't the right path for me, and I needed something stable, so I enrolled in the police academy. Through the years, I've witnessed enough horror to make anyone want to walk away. But there was one particular night that almost shattered me completely. It was April 2014, a chilly, still evening. I was making rounds along some back roads near the outskirts of town. Everything was silent, the kind of silence that sets you on edge. Out of nowhere, headlights filled my rearview mirror, a car weaving erratically behind me. It sped ahead, barely missing the front end of my cruiser. My pulse spiked. I flipped on my lights and sirens and initiated a traffic stop. As I approached the vehicle, an old red sedan with 4 passengers, I immediately sensed something was off. The driver, a man in his 30s, was sweating bullets. His hands trembled as he raised them, just as I instructed. "License and registration," I said in a firm voice, though I was on high alert. My instincts whispered danger. He handed over his ID. The name read, Richard Ramirez. My gut twisted. That name had been in the dispatch alerts earlier, a suspect in a recent armed robbery. Known to be dangerous. Possibly armed. I slowly backed toward my cruiser, keeping eyes on the car as I called for backup, my hand resting near my firearm. When I returned, Richard appeared restless. His hand crept toward his pocket. "Keep your hands where I can see them," I shouted. He didn't comply. Instead, he pulled something out. My instincts took over. I thought it was a weapon, and I fired. Gunshots rang out into the cold night. Richard slumped over, groaning but still alive. The other passengers froze, terror on their faces. "Out of the car! Hands where I can see them," I ordered. The 2 in the back seat scrambled out. The person in the passenger seat sat frozen, pale as a ghost. I barked the order again, my voice shaky but steady. Finally, they complied. I restrained them and placed them in my cruiser. But my focus was on Richard. Backup arrived within minutes. The flashing red and blue lights washed over the scene. I cautiously returned to the driver's side, gun drawn. Richard wasn't moving anymore. I opened the door and checked for a pulse. Barely there. I reached into his pocket, and what I found made my stomach drop. It wasn't a gun. It was a small bag of meth. My knees nearly gave out. I had reacted on instinct, and now someone was dying because of it. Richard was declared dead on the spot. I sat inside my patrol car, staring blankly at the dashboard. Another officer came over and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did what you had to do," he said softly. But the words rang hollow. That night, I went home and sat in darkness, replaying everything in my head on a loop, Richard reaching for his pocket, the flash of my muzzle, the sound of the shots. A few weeks later, his family filed a civil suit against me. They said I used unnecessary force, that Richard wasn't a threat. The media picked up the story. Soon, my face was all over the news. Online, strangers called me a killer. The death threats came pouring in. "Pig. You should burn in hell." I tried to shut it out, but the guilt was unbearable. I began to question if they were right. The legal battle dragged on. My department stood by me, said I followed procedure. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor, stating I acted in self-defense. But no courtroom decision could erase what the public had already decided. Time moved forward, but I couldn't. That night haunted me. I started second-guessing every move on the job. Every decision. One night, while patrolling the same stretch of road where it all happened, I noticed a car behind me. At first, I thought nothing of it. But every turn I made, it followed. I radioed in. "This is Unit 327. I think I'm being followed." Requesting backup. Before help could arrive, the vehicle sped up, pulling alongside me. The driver rolled down his window, a young man, face twisted with rage. "You killed my brother, you bastard," he screamed, hurling something at my windshield. It slammed into the glass. Before I could react, he swerved his car toward mine, trying to ram me off the road. My training kicked in. I floored the accelerator, trying to create space. Thankfully, backup units arrived quickly. Sirens pierced the air. The man took off, disappearing into the night. We never found him. But his message was clear. To some, Richard's death was personal. The months that followed were some of the darkest in my life. I considered walking away. I even thought about ending everything. One night, I found myself alone in the living room, service weapon in hand. The weight was unbearable, both in my palm and in my soul. But then I thought of my family. My friends. The ones who still needed me. I realized that quitting wasn't the solution. So I reached out. I started therapy, a professional who could help me unpack everything. It wasn't easy, but it was a beginning. A chance at healing. It's been years since that night in 2014. I still think about Richard. I wonder if there was another way. A better choice. But in this line of work, decisions happen in a heartbeat, and sometimes, they cost more than we can imagine. Before we move on to the next story, if you're new to our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any of our chilling stories. Your support means everything to you.